Welcome to the Real Bible Rob podcast. And today I have a special guest, uh, Elle, and she goes by literally the Bible on TikTok and I think other platforms too, right? YouTube and
I
others.
have them, but not as active.
Yeah, okay, yeah. But I've seen you on TikTok, and I'm so excited that Elle is here because um, she reads the Bible. She's on a project to read the Bible cover to cover. I think it's one chapter a day. Uh,
It's sometimes at multiple, but
Multi,
yes.
okay,
Yeah.
and it's just and she says, read it cover to cover as a non-religious gal, and I find her approach to Bible reading so refreshing and so helpful, so insightful. So I really wanted to invite her on, and thank you for joining so much. And I think it's just a great example, I think, for anyone to do long format reading of Scripture. Because people pick apart the Bible and do, short snippets, and they take parts of the Bible that are completely unrelated and shove them together to make theologies instead of just dealing with the text like you do. So I wanted to ask your impressions, talk about some of the feedback you're getting, and thank you so much for joining, Elle.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited, Rob. I'm really looking forward to this.
Wonderful. So, I have lots of questions, and we'll kind of just meander through it. But I just wanted to kind of give you an opportunity to describe your project a bit. What's motivating you to do it? Why did you want to do this? And then we can kind of go in a little bit more about what you're learning as you're going through.
Perfect. Yeah. So literally the Bible is my handle, and it's mainly a TikTok series where I am reading, as Rob had said, the Bible cover to cover as a non-religious gal. And what I mean by that is I'm not religious. I'm not
Hmm.
atheist. I'm not Christian. I'm just myself, and I have,
Hmm.
certain beliefs. But on this page specifically, I am just giving literal summaries and reactions to what I find. So I'm not adding any sort of religious or interpretive lens. They're
Hmm.
just relatively short videos for every single story and recapping what happens in a clear and, I don't know, just literal way.
Uh-huh.
And then I just do a follow-up video right after that with my thoughts and questions. And boy, do I have a lot of questions.
Yes. Yeah, it's really been intriguing to see the comments and how you've dealt with them and so forth. Do you have a literary background? Is that or is that what is it that gives you this perspective? What is it that's motivating you to do it?
So, a few things. So, I had been sitting on this idea for a while, and I
Hmm.
knew at some point in my life that I was like, I would love to read the Bible, but like, I didn't. And
Uh-huh.
so I thought, what if I started like a TikTok series? It would make me
Uh-huh.
like kind of hold me to doing it. And then I was like, oh, I just don't know how that's going to be. I don't want, people to think that I'm like mocking in any way or you know what I
Hmm.
mean? Because I'm not religious. And then what really motivated me was, there's talks right now of putting the Bibles in public school. And I
Yes.
know people have whatever their opinions are on that. But for me, I'm thinking,
Yeah.
okay, well, if my children are going to be learning about the Bible, then I need to know what's in there so that I
Yeah.
can have those
Yeah. Very
conversations with
smart.
them. And so at that moment, I was like, you know what? There's probably a lot of other parents who won't pick up the Bible, but maybe they're interested in what's in it. So
Uh-huh.
I can be the person that they come to and they can just watch some quick videos on whatever it is that they want to
Uh-huh.
listen to. And so that's really why I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. And
Uh-huh.
I just did it.
Uh-huh. Good, awesome.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing is that by doing it the way you're doing, I'm expecting that you will know, you probably already know more than 90% of the people who say they are Christian and religious and so forth. So just by doing it this methodical way, I think is really
Mhm.
valuable, you know.
I
And
agree. I've talked to quite a few people who are Christian, and
hmm.
they told me they're like, I've never even read the whole Bible, but they've been taught the Bible, which
Yes.
is very different in my opinion. So,
Yes.
yeah,
Very different. Yeah, because you're going to get the Bible with a theological lens whenever you're
exactly.
taught it.
Yeah.
Yes. So thank you. That's awesome. So, what so that's basically what you're hoping to get out of it is sort of this perspective, knowing what it is, so that you can be informed about what your children are encountering and so forth. Or
Yeah, and I want people to have a place to come for community and conversation.
hmm
I found that my comments are full of Christians and atheists. I honestly
yes,
want to say it's 50-50.
uh-huh,
But I love when people are commenting about their own interpretations or like the historical context, or
uh-huh.
they're just debating. I just feel like it really shows how much this book really just still is sparking the curiosity and passion that it has
Yes.
for thousands and thousands of years.
Exactly. Well, you've probably seen a few of my comments too.
Yes.
I tend to be pretty vigorous sometimes. I figure, well, that's, that's why you get people involved. But yeah, I do have opinions. But so you just completed Genesis. You're a little bit into Exodus now. And um, you let's see, you asked several questions of your listeners when you completed Genesis, and I can't remember exactly what those questions are, but I was wondering if you could kind of recap those questions and that we could sort of chat about them, each one.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, so I asked three main questions. It was, what was your favorite story in Genesis? What
hmm
surprised you the most? And then what part was like confusing or made you think?
Yeah.
So my answers to the first one, like, was, what my favorite story was in Genesis. And
Yes.
overall, it was Joseph's story, just because
Yeah.
of the dynamic, right? The it's a full, complete narrative,
Yeah.
right? With the drama, the emotions, the whole thing. And so for me, that had to have been my favorite story.
Uh-huh.
What surprised me the most was just how messy and human all of these characters are,
Yes.
right? From deception to favoritism,
Uh-huh.
so much family drama that I was just not expecting. So that
Uh-huh.
definitely surprised me. And then what part confused me
Uh-huh.
was, and I might be pronouncing this word wrong, but the Nephilim,
Uh-huh.
giants in
Yeah,
Genesis
Nephilim.
6.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nephilim. Okay, thank
Uh-huh.
you. It just kind of felt like it was dropped in there and there's no explanation. I have had people comment saying that it's going to come back, but like to me when I was
No.
reading it, not true.
I don't think so, but
Okay.
oh well, they do if you go to the Book of Enoch, but that's not in the Bible. So
Oh, maybe that's
yeah.
what people I've heard of. I've
hmm
A lot of people have told me about that one. So
Yes. Uh-huh.
yeah, but that part I was like, what? What just happened? And then it just moved on.
Well, and that's really interesting because the Nephilim, yeah, there's other ways of saying it, but
Mhm.
those are mythical characters. There are a number of them, and you might have noticed that throughout Genesis. There are
Yep.
a lot of sort of so, and I say that I'll go, this is a fable or this is a myth, and that gets people really agitated. They
Mhm.
get real mad because they go, wait a minute, no, Noah literally did, take all the
Yep.
people onto the boat,
Yep.
and that's so central to their
Oh,
identity. They
yeah.
get threatened by it. Yeah. So, but yeah, I'm also confused by the Nephilim.
Not just me.
I don't think really anybody knows what they are. I mean, obviously have in the ancient Mid East, near in what they call the ancient Near East, it
Mhm.
was, clearly part of the uh, mythical, the myth uh, universe in that
Right.
area, right?
Yep.
And you can even say that's true for the Noah story because the Noah story is actually much older than the Bible. Goes back
Oh,
at least a
goodness.
thousand years older because it comes. We hear about it in Gilgamesh, if you're familiar with that.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, so it's this weird. So I love the way you say that it's messy because it is.
It is.
It's very messy. um, and so when you talk about family dynamics,
Mhm.
super important. How real did they seem to you, and how, you know, uh, could you tell the difference between what may have been sort of mythical or fable oriented and what's real?
Yeah, so the whole thing is just very fascinating to me, and putting it out on the internet was where I just
hmm
realized some people need things to be literal and others
Yes.
see it as allegory. And I just have been taking the text as it presents itself, right?
Uh-huh.
Says that Noah lived 900 years. I say that, I recount
Uh-huh.
that. But
Uh-huh.
then my reaction, I'm like, well, that's wild.
Yeah.
fears, right? And then you have people defending it, and then you have people who are saying, well, it's, a fictitious story meant to do X, Y, Z. So
Uh-huh.
I've really just been letting the audience decide how to interpret it,
Yeah.
which kind of keeps myself a little bit more neutral
Yeah.
because again, I'm reading exactly what it says. And then
Right.
my next video will be like, I don't understand.
Well, yeah, I guess we should mention that, right? Is that you have your sort of a recap of a chapter and then you have your reaction to the chapter. Was that partly to keep yourself sort of objective, or what was the reason for that structure?
So when I was reading, when I started this channel, I was just gonna have my recaps.
Okay.
But I read Genesis 1 and I was like, I have so many questions. Like this is a book, not Bible study, like a book club. It's a
Yeah.
giant book club at this point,
Uh-huh.
right? And I kind of need that because when I'm reading it, I have so many questions and thoughts and I put them on the internet, and what I received has been just so many passionate people
Yeah.
answering these questions. But and I knew that would happen a little
Hmm.
bit. What
Yeah.
I didn't know would happen was there's people in my DMs thanking me for asking these
Oh,
questions because
wonderful.
aren't they feel that they're not allowed to or able to,
Yes.
they would be judged. And so to have people in my DMs thanking me for that, I'm like, you know what, then this is good. Like
Yes.
I'm not the only one with these questions. People who have grown up in the church have these questions. So why
Yes.
not just ask it and be very honest in my reactions? Because again, the literal recap, I'm not giving, my sass or like my, I'm
Your
just reading it.
interpretation even, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the next video that I just asked my questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. I think, and I'm told this frequently is that we all have, for lack of a better word, we all have our ministries.
Hmm.
In other words, ways in which we want to help people and serve them.
Yeah.
And in a way, I feel like that's what you're doing, especially if you're asking questions that they would hope they could ask in their community, right? And maybe you're saying things that they may be afraid to say,
Hmm.
or, yeah.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
find that frequently in my ministry as well. It's just sort of like I can ask things and they go, oh, really? Yeah, yes, it's okay.
Yeah. 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 But at the
That's
same
really neat.
time, yeah, like I think I, I felt very honored that people came to me and was trusting me to,
Yes.
not
Yeah.
say anything about them personally and just like, yeah, I'm here to
Hmm.
ask questions. And if, anyone watching this has questions, like feel free to DM me and I will, when I get to that chapter, I'll probably have that question anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. So when we talk about Joseph,
Hmm.
um, one of the things that, as I've studied, I also agree with that that is the most beautiful, I think, most beautiful and
Hmm.
complete story in Genesis. But I also have grown to understand it's very multifaceted, and that it is a lot about the the or the dynamics between the brothers, and all understandable in a lot of respects, but also I go, what kind of person was Joseph? Is it there are people who think that he has a queer perspective. There are
Interesting.
people who think that he is like a proto Jesus, an early Jesus narrative, that kind of thing. And so I guess when you've seen it, have you seen how multifaceted he is and how you can see him from many different angles?
Yeah. So when I was reading it, again, I'm just was reading this and
Hmm.
I didn't put those things together myself because I
Yeah.
haven't read the entire thing, right?
Right.
So when people were saying what you were just saying, I'm like, oh, okay, I could see how you would. I get that, but that's like again, it's an interpretation.
Yes. Yep.
So the story, I feel like it's just however you need it to be for your life in that moment.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is excellent, because that's the idea, is that let the text speak, and
Hmm.
then how you use it. In the interview I just did last week, she said that she goes, "This story has been used for thousands of years for people to use it in how they needed to use it in their time," and it just, it's refreshing to hear
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And we're doing it again. So, that's so cool. Um, uh, n- Now, so you already mentioned a little bit about how Genesis is way different than you thought it would be.
Mhm.
Um, and is that was that what you thought it would be just based on what you heard as, say, as a child, or you just heard in other people say, or what was it that gave you the perspective that you had about Genesis before? And
Yeah.
then, yeah.
So I knew that Genesis was going to be the start of us, the start
Uh-huh.
of people. So I just thought it was going to be this like solemn and consistent book. Like,
Yes.
okay, like how are the trees made? How is it like, but then when it was like this chaotic thing, I was like, there's plot twists in Genesis.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. Big
what?
time.
Like
Yeah.
the shift in tone, I wasn't expecting these
Yeah.
characters making flawed decisions. I truly thought these were going to be like perfect people.
Yeah.
Outside of Adam and Eve. Like I knew that they had messed everything up for everyone, but that was like
Yes.
I that was it. I didn't really think it
Uh-huh.
was going to be a collection of these family stories at all.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess so the character of God
Hmm.
that you see a little bit, you'll definitely see a lot more in Exodus. You'll see the character. So I'm thinking of the literary character,
Hmm.
Yahweh, right?
Yep.
Um, how is that character different than you expected?
I so in Genesis specifically, I guess I just thought it would be through his lens.
Hmm.
Like I thought he would be more present,
Yeah,
but he's not
he's
really. Like
not.
there's
Yes.
lots of chapters that just don't even bring him up, and I definitely thought it was going to be like God did this, God did this, God did this, but it,
Uh-huh.
it was more about like what humans did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great observation. Yeah, you do see more in Exodus. You're probably already seeing it, is that God
Hmm.
shows up more,
Yes.
speaks more through Moses.
Yes.
But uh, yeah, I guess when you do see God, though, and you definitely do,
Mhm.
especially in things like the flood narrative
Yep.
and others, Tower of does God seem meaner or nicer, or how does God strike you
Yeah,
in
this is
those?
a great question. And I go back and forth on this, right? But
Yeah.
he he does a lot of things that I just never would have expected him to do.
Uh-huh.
Like I knew about Noah's Ark. I knew about the flooding, but until I like was reading it, I was like, he just went and killed every person on there. Like even babies,
Yeah.
right? Like innocent
Mhm.
people like that have not made a decision in their life. They were born and now they're flooded. So that was shocking to me. Yeah, he makes decisions that I just never would have thought.
Yes.
And I made a video about this, and a
Hmm.
lot of people were like, "Well, we can't know why he does those things." And I
Yeah.
understand that, right? No, we don't know why he did those things
Right.
or if those things happened or anything like that. But I can definitely say I thought it was going to be he was just like this all good person.
Uh-huh.
And depending on how you define good or bad, right? I don't want to say he's bad, but like he kills people in Genesis.
Yeah.
So,
Well, one thing I get a lot of feedback, as a pastor and things I say, I often hear, "You're a heretic," that kind of
yeah.
thing about these things. But I hope you haven't heard that yet. You might. But the thing is that this idea of does God change? Is God petulant?
Mhm.
God kind of acts like a toddler sometimes, especially in Exodus, you'll see God gets really, really mad. And so, do you? So one way to look at that is to see God as a reflection of the how people see themselves. Do you see that at all in Genesis? Do you see a
I
reflection?
have never heard that. That's
Okay.
very beautiful. That's like a very beautiful string of words. And I guess, yeah, like now that you say that, just
Uh-huh.
kind of thinking in real time right now, I definitely can see that. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're made in the image of God
Yeah.
according to the
Hmm. Hmm.
text. That image goes both ways.
Right.
and there's relationship there. So I think that's one thing you will see as you go through the Old Testament. You know, a lot of people are afraid of the Old Testament because of the,
Yeah.
some really awful stuff, especially the genocide part
Yes.
and slavery parts.
Yep.
But the this idea is, yes, we're in God's image, but that God's also, and this sounds heretical to some people, in our image. We
Yeah.
we make God what we want in order to deal with it and how we perceive. Uh, so one of the things, and I actually made a comment on one of your things because I was talking about the ESV. You're using the English Standard Version, which is probably good for your project because that's where you're going to run into a lot of people, right? Evangelical people love the ESV.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very critical of the ESV because I see some of the ways it's used and how what it did. How do you feel, especially reading it in that version? How do you feel how women are portrayed?
Great, great question, Rob. Yeah, so I wasn't surprised at how women are portrayed. Um,
Hmm.
but I will say that women are secondary, right, in this narrative, right? They're married
Yeah.
off, they're traded, they're tricked, they're blamed for things, but they're also quietly pivotal.
Yeah.
Like, you have Rachel and Rebecca and Sarah that they're driving the story,
Yes.
right? Like Rebecca basically determines which son is inheriting the blessing.
Uh-huh.
Sarah makes decisions that are shaping, future things you already know. But at the same time, like some women are treated as background figures, like Dinah.
Uh-huh.
Her
Yeah.
story is told entirely through the actions of these men.
Hmm.
You have Tamar, right, taking
Yeah.
just bold actions, showing real agency. So the inconsistency of how much voice or power women are given, I wasn't expecting
Yeah.
that. Men, on the other hand, are always the central characters.
Yes.
They are far from perfect. They lie, they cheat, they steal blessings, right?
Yes.
They make messy family decisions, but the
Yeah.
story is still following them and their covenant with God. And so it really stood out to me that the Bible doesn't shy away from showing the flaws of its main characters.
Uh-huh.
Uh, Makes it feel human, but again, like the women are making moves in the background, and
Yes.
if it's something you don't like notice to pick up on, I could see how you just wouldn't. It would just kind of go in the like you wouldn't really like. I had never heard of any of these women before,
Uh-huh.
but I have heard of Noah and Moses
Yeah.
and Joseph and
Yep.
I've heard of all of these people, and I
Uh-huh.
did not grow up in a church. I've never heard of any of the women.
Uh, uh-huh.
Mary, that's it. I know
Yeah.
Mary.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, and you'll hear about Miriam coming up soon too, who's a pretty major person. But well, isn't it kind of like real life? I mean, it's the men maybe the showboats, but the
Mhm.
real actions happening behind the scenes with women
Yeah,
doing things,
yeah.
motivating. Yeah, I sometimes with churches you see that too. Is that churches would don't exist without women driving them, really. So that's really interesting. So do you think that the way women are portrayed in Genesis, is it different? How is it different from today's society? How you're treated as a woman or as people you know today?
Yeah. I feel like every woman would have a different answer to this because it just
Hmm.
depends on where you live, down to the city that you live in, to be honest.
Uh-huh. Hmm.
Um, I am like very fortunate to be, married to who I'm married to, and I don't have a backseat in my marriage. I don't have a backseat in my life as a woman.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of women
Who
who
do?
are, but I
Yeah.
don't know any men who do.
Yes. Yeah.
So, yeah, to your point though, it's very realistic how the Bible is
Hmm.
portraying men and women, right? I hate to say like it is what it is, but right now that is how it is.
Yeah. Yep.
And
Yep.
it sounds
Yep.
like back then it was too. Just
Well,
yeah.
and that brings up a big thing is that people talk about biblical marriage,
Mhm.
and you've seen in scripture in Genesis what marriages look like.
Mhm.
Um, do you see consistency in the way marriage is portrayed or not?
Consistencies in the Bible or
Yeah.
consistencies with the Bible versus real life.
Well,
Yeah.
I guess both. I mean, but sort of, yeah. Are the marriages the same in the Bible that you see there?
I
And
mean, they're
yeah,
pretty standard, right? I mean, these men
yeah.
are taking multiple wives, they're given wives, they win
Hmm.
wives. And I think, the women don't have any say in any of this. They
Right.
just are what they are.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I guess so. I mean, it's kind of a rhetorical question about whether that's like today, right? I mean, certain marriages are like that, but
Yep,
most well, we have different expectations in marriage than they did. So,
absolutely. And we have
yeah,
I mean, hopefully we have the choice.
yeah.
Not traded. My parents didn't trade me for anything,
Yes, right.
right?
You do have agency. One thing when I do marriages sometimes, every state in the country, you have to have a verbal contract between a man and a woman. You can't, it's not a legal marriage without a verbal contract. That's why you say I do. They didn't have that. It wasn't a contract between the woman and the man. It was a contract between the father and the other father, you
Yep.
know?
Yeah, the groom and the father. Yeah.
Yes. Or even just the two fathers, the
Oh,
groom's
yeah, it's
father. And
true. It's
yeah.
true. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, just hugely different. Uh, you receive a lot of advice in your comments, uh, and you mentioned good comments, bad comments, some really maybe soulful, thank you comments. Um, have you found it helpful or hurtful? I mean, have you been taken aback by some of them, or can you describe your reaction a little bit to the comments that you get?
Yeah, so it goes up and down. It's a total mix, right? I have learned so much from commenters, especially those who are
Hmm.
providing like a historical or cultural context, because I
Yeah.
don't have that background and
Hmm.
I don't know what I don't know, right? So
Yeah.
a lot of times they'll point out things or details that I just missed or overlooked completely. And then you also have people who are just so passionate, but also very critical, which
Yeah.
sometimes that can be a lot. But I know for me, I can remove myself because I know that it's social media and I know that
Yeah.
we're all just human beings at the end of the day. So
Uh-huh.
I'm able to remove myself. What is a little bit harder for me is when people are debating and name calling in the comments, like to
Yeah.
each other, because I don't want like a young mind to be on here, like kind of reading this
Yeah.
and going through however they feel. Maybe they're having like a spiritual crisis, and I don't want them to see those things. So
Hmm.
that's pretty much it. But for me, I mean, I expected emotions and people
Yeah.
being tense. It's people's livelihoods. Like people were brought up in believing
Uh-huh.
in the book, which is again why I want to be so respectful to people because at the
Yeah.
end of the day, a belief is your own. And I'm very aware that there are just tons of religions out there and that
Yeah.
absolutely no one knows what happens in the afterlife. Like you
Yeah.
can't know that, right?
Yes.
But overall, these comments, they're part of the conversation. I enjoy them. I would say 90 to 95% of my comments are very positive or they're really trying to help me.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Or at least, yeah, trying to share what matters to them with
exactly.
you, right?
Mhm.
And yeah, and that's really great. I guess my ratio of comments is a little different because I am a pastor and I represent something to people. So I get more hurtful comments,
Yeah.
or I
Yeah.
it's probably 30% 30% hurtful, 70% good. And it's
Yeah.
just kind of like, but you portray yourself as being objective. So I think that helps a lot, right? So
Yeah.
um and one of the things that I see in your comments is people dragging Jesus in a lot.
Yeah.
Um does that surprise you how people are constantly trying to drag Jesus into the Old Testament or
No. I think that a lot of times those comments come from people where that's the first video they watched of mine.
uh-huh.
So they
Okay.
don't understand. So my comment is usually like, I'm only in Genesis, I'm only in Exodus. I haven't
Uh-huh.
read about Jesus. I don't know him yet. I'm not even close to being there yet. So that's kind of what I tell them. And then a lot of times those same people will watch my videos and then they'll
Uh-huh.
make another comment like, oh, I get what you're doing
Oh,
now.
really? Okay.
Yeah. So I get like, I would say the people who are coming, at least come off as like
Hmm.
very passionate and almost negative, whenever I
Yeah.
respond to them, like of what I'm doing, then they always, I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like that's not,
Oh, okay.
yeah. So that's why it's mostly positive. Like I really don't have a lot of negativity. And if it
Yeah.
is, then it's they apologize because they're like, oh,
Uh-huh.
I see what
Uh-huh.
you're doing.
Because they care. Yeah.
Yep.
And they're probably seeing the good in what you're doing,
Yes.
right? Yeah, that's wonderful. It was on one of your videos where I commented to one of your commenters. I said, I said something like, she's reading it from a non-Christian theology point of view, and there's a lot of value in that. Sometimes that's the only way we can understand the Old Testament and from their point of view is to take the Christian theology out of it. The person pushed back pretty hard on me, but so do you see that too, where maybe you have somebody? I guess maybe the question is, do you feel like they're proselytizing to you, trying to convince you to become a Christian or to look at it from the Christian point of view? What's your feeling about that?
There are, I would say, very few. I think for
Hmm.
the most part, people are just excited for me to be on
Hmm.
this journey. So and it goes both with Christians and atheists. They're both like, read the Bible and you won't believe. Read the Bible and you will believe. Like
Right.
you know what I mean?
It
And
hasn't
so
worked.
I think people are just like sitting on the edge of their seat, like
Yeah.
very excited for me to finish. Just like I'm very excited to finish. Like
Uh-huh.
I when I get through this entire text, like I'm gonna feel so accomplished, and I'm just
Yeah.
so fortunate to have that positive community on my
Hmm.
side and helping me because, like I said, 90 to 95% of these commenters, they want to help, they want to share. They,
Yes.
it's like, again, it's a book club. And
Right.
so,
Yeah.
yeah, so people who are super passionate, like I don't see anyone who's trying to like force me. I think they're like, you'll get there.
Yeah. Yeah, to whatever point of view that they have.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I'm not that naive. I know that you'll reach your own conclusions about things, but uh, it doesn't get any clearer. I mean, it's messy, messy, messy all the way through. I guess one of the questions, you're going to come up on some pretty dry passages where
Mhm.
you have long genealogies, where
Mhm.
if you're familiar with that is, or you'll have it just just drags on and on. How will you deal with, say you have a whole chapter of just somebody beget somebody who beget somebody. How will you deal with that?
Yeah.
Um,
There was one in Genesis like that where I think the
mhm.
entire chapter was that.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, this is kind of boring, but it's important to know these characters. Like I'm gonna,
Yeah.
right? So now that you're telling me it's gonna come up again, I'm just kind of processing this in real time. What I'll probably do is make a chart
Uh-huh.
because I'm a visual
Okay.
learner. So I'll
Is that
probably
is
put
that
a
your
chart on the
approach?
screen, yeah, and be like, this is who these people are.
Yeah.
Um, just to have again, like because I'm making these videos, I've gone back to my videos and
Uh-huh.
referenced them. Instead of reading it again. I'm like, wait, what was this
Yeah,
chapter called
right.
again?
You have a
So
good summary. Yeah.
yeah, so at least then when characters come up now I can go back and be like, oh, where's my chart?
Hmm. Hmm. Well, one of the things that scholars love those genealogies, love those cracks, love the repetition because it's in the repetition, it's in the inconsistencies and the contradictions where
Mhm.
scholars can look behind the curtain.
Mhm.
One of those, uh, I'm hoping that that's what you'll get out of these really dry passages. You go, oh, this is sort of the deep mining. Where people can find stuff.
Yeah, that's good. Good
Yeah.
advice. Yeah, good to
Um, yeah, I'll pray for you when you get to those, especially when you get to, well, the genealogies are dry, but you'll also get, like in Judges, you'll get some really violent stuff, and processing that, and how you do it. So, um, let's see. Uh, yeah, and well, I have a question here. Are you surprised by the passion of some of your commenters? It sounds like maybe you're not so surprised by
know.
that at all. And so some people do read the text very literally, and you're taking it as a as it is, text as it is way. How do you are you, I guess, when you take a fantastical story like the Noah story
Mhm.
and the really long lifespans of patriarchs, and you're reading it that way, um, I guess when you're doing your I don't like to say interpretive, but when you're doing not your
The,
recap, but
the thoughts and questions
yeah,
video.
the thoughts
Mhm.
and questions. Um, how do you give space to people who might see this as take it very literally, you know, inerrant word of God versus somebody who takes it metaphorically? And how do you help them see that you're seeing both sides or
So for me, it's really less about deciding if it's true and more
okay.
about showing how the text is written, and then just,
Mm-hmm.
it's up to the audience to however it lands on them is how it
Uh-huh.
lands on them, right? So like the the parts like Noah's Ark, like these fantastical parts, right, are
Mm-hmm.
actually some of I think my audience's favorites because they spark a lot of discussion. So,
Yeah.
some people will explain it, as you said, metaphorically, and then some will defend it literally.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I'm just kind of enjoying what is being told. And my job here,
Uh-huh.
I feel like, is just to keep this space open for everyone's reaction. And, because I can't tell you if something was true or not. Like, I wasn't there. I don't know.
Uh-huh.
Like, that's not my job. It's up to you. I'm just telling you that, this person lived 960 years.
Yes.
That's what it says. Like,
Yeah.
and that's like another thing is that, and I made a video about this actually about how people will use the Bible and kind of weaponize it.
Uh-huh.
And they use passages. And I'm like, well, if you're going to use that passage, like, how are you not going to use this passage over here? Which
Uh-huh.
is another like reason that I wanted to read it because these stories, again, are up for the reader to decide if they're true or not. And I
Yeah.
don't think that they should be used as a way to defend
Yeah.
how people are acting or
Yeah. 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 I think that too was that when you're doing it in long format reading like you are, you will see the conflicts
yeah.
that between in the text that most people never see.
Mhm.
And they've been told, no, the text is completely consistent and all of that. And it doesn't make it not true. I mean, it's like
Right.
any story, right? Any narrative, any novel you have, there's going to be conflicts
Mhm.
in the text, and
Mhm.
so I guess then, well, I did want to mention there's a scholar named who just passed away. His name is Walter Brueggemann,
Okay.
and he wrote a book called Prophetic Imagination years ago. And one of the things he talks about is that people have up through the 20th century, especially in mid 20th century, people were obsessed about what's true, which author it was, which is metaphor, which is not, which is all that. And he, in the late 70s, kind of came up with and just said, "This is narrative, you know." This is I don't know if he coined it, but he was definitely a proponent of narrative criticism rather than historical
Mhm.
criticism. So that idea of taking the story as it is and then what it does for you and what it does for other people around and in him. So if that ever becomes interesting to you, I do recommend. It's called Prophetic Imagination. It's probably after you're done, especially with the prophets.
Yep.
Uh, you go, oh my goodness, yeah, because it's in the imagination that we understand these things.
Yeah.
We have to imagine being them. So that's what's so valuable about what you're doing is you're putting you're saying, oh, imagine. I can't imagine. I think you've said that a lot in your videos. I can't imagine what it would be like to be Tamar, you know.
Yes. Yeah, I can't.
Um, so now you're in now you're in Exodus, and I think you even expressed maybe a shock or something like that about the change in tone, the shift. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so it seems dark. I
Hmm.
feel like it's getting darker. I mean, the very first Exodus 1, you have the Pharaoh
Yeah.
to kill the babies. Like
Yeah.
that is so dark. I just wasn't expecting that. And it's funny, I have this kind of inside joke with a lot of my audience on TikTok where people will tell me to buckle up and I'm like, "Oh, I'm
Yes.
like this is it."
Yep.
And people told me to buckle up for Exodus.
Yeah.
Not enough people. Not enough people. But I thought, okay, we'll get into it. I'll like sense it coming.
Yeah.
Since I finished Genesis, I'm like, I can no, right off the bat. I was like, oh no,
Uh-huh.
I forgot to put my seatbelt on. My bad.
Uh-huh.
Because that just yeah, so I feel like it's a lot darker, at least right now,
Uh-huh.
start
Yeah.
than Genesis was.
Yeah. Well, I guess are you to the point in there where you feel like you're getting to know Moses as a
So
character?
at this point, no, he's he's an interesting character. I
Yeah.
don't know anything about Moses. I knew the name, but I
Uh-huh.
and maybe he's this, I'm gonna make myself sound so dumb here, but you know what? I do it every day on the internet. So I thought, and he might be, but I thought he was an apostle.
Oh,
Is he
uh-huh.
not? Is he? Is he not?
No.
Oh, yeah. See? That's what I thought. That's where his name was, like Moses. Everyone knows Moses. But I kind of think that he's a very interesting character right now because
Hmm.
he meets God and like he's still questioning God. He's like, "Why are you telling me to do this?" Like,
Yeah.
what? And I'm like,
Uh-huh.
"That is,
He
yeah." Like
pushes
I like,
back
yeah, he does. He pushes
hard.
back,
Yeah.
yeah. And I mean, I thought he was an apostle, so or a
Uh-huh.
whatever. But okay.
Yeah, apostle's a New Testament term. That's a Greek term, New Testament.
Well, I knew that. I just didn't know
Hmm.
if characters would come over. So
Okay.
I guess not.
Yeah. Some people call him a some people call him a prophet, but I think he's a little more than a prophet because he's
Okay.
kind of the giver of the law. But yeah, he is fascinating. And I I I hope you grow to love him
I
because he
think
is
I will.
yeah. He's amazing, and he pushes back hard. He gets God to change his mind.
Yes.
He
Yes.
fights God. He says, "You're gonna." He goes, don't do that. Basically, God, you're being stupid. If you do
Yeah.
that, then uh, you're gonna give the Egyptians what they want, and they don't just, that
Mhm.
things like that. So I hope, yeah, he's unique in that respect. Is he pushes back pretty
Yes.
hard.
I'm enjoying it. I am.
Good. And let's see. Yeah, and I mentioned that you do get lots of references to Christianity and the New Testament. So you're going to go linear and you're going to hit the New Testament. Um, do you are you are I guess maybe are you anticipating certain milestones coming up that you're looking forward to, or are you not? Are you kind of standing back and just letting
I'm
it
kind of
come?
standing back. Yeah, because I just don't know what to expect. And
Hmm.
again, people will tell me to like Judges is one that people are like, wait till you get to Judges,
Yeah.
wait
Oh, yeah.
till this, Leviticus. And I'm just like, it sounds like every single book is gonna
Uh-huh.
be an adventure.
Yeah.
So I know, like I think that the way I'm doing it is perfect for how I like to learn and
Yeah.
understand and read. I will say I do have a lot of people telling me to skip the Old Testament completely.
Oh, no way. You
And
can't do that.
I'm like,
Don't
I'm
do
not
it.
gonna do that. No.
No.
This is like interesting
Oh,
too.
yeah. It's
And then I
fascinating.
have people that are telling me to like read it in a specific way. Like you have to read
Yeah.
this chapter book and then this book and then this book and
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know or a lot of people also tell me you need to sit in church or go to a Bible study or like get this specific study book. And I've responded to this question a few times because I think that's like the number one comment that I
Yeah.
get.
Uh-huh.
My response is I
Go
don't
talk to
want
an
to
expert or
and
something like
yeah,
that, or yeah.
yeah. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't want to be siloed into that because
No.
I already can see in my comments, I read a specific chapter and there's 90 comments and they're all different of how they
Yeah.
interpret it.
Yep.
So, like you guys had to have learned that interpretation from your
Yes.
pastor and your pastor learned it from, right? So
Yeah.
that's where I'm trying to stay neutral and like this, I'm reading it with my fully formed adult brain,
Yeah.
knows nothing,
Yeah.
and going into it raw. We're just gonna see what
Yeah.
happens.
Well, and that really brings up a good point is that when people are offering interpretations to you, are you able to see how much of that is sort of added on, theological overlays and add-ons compared to what you're reading?
Absolutely. And
Hmm.
that's why it's my favorite is when people give me their interpretations. I
Uh-huh.
love hearing how they were taught
Uh-huh.
or
Uh-huh.
what they got out of it because it makes me then like I feel like I just read the same thing 90 times, but like and I'm getting something different out of it every single time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
love that. I just it's my favorite. It's my favorite when people comment their interpretation.
Oh, that's cool. That's
Yeah.
cool. I'm glad you have that perspective because sometimes when I read those, I kind of react a little bit. I go, but yeah, that is cool. The and I'm also excited to see how you as to as you get toward further in the project how much you notice, how much is theological overlay than what the text really is. Is it a lot? Is it a little? Do people, and I know that it's going to be different in different portions of it, but I always like to say there's a term that you'll hear probably is exegesis, which means okay, exegesis means to analyze the text as to get things out of the text.
Okay.
Just basically that's what you're doing. You're doing exegesis. And that's quote good. And then there's something called eisegesis, which means reading into the text. And that is, quote, bad. But the fact is that anybody who's doing like theology and saying and giving you interpretations, they're doing a little bit of eisegesis. They're adding to it. So that division is really important to know. And that's why I love your approach too, is that you basically your recap videos are exegesis. It's just saying what's there. There may be a little bit of interpretation, but even in your other video, you're not really interpreting. You're just asking good questions.
Mhm.
And maybe people are offering you their eisegesis
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
top of it. Now, of course, they'll get all mad and say, no, it's not eisegesis, but that's really what it is when they're reading things into the text that aren't there.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. And then one thing also I'm excited to see is when you get to Leviticus, you have long lists of laws. Uh, have you thought, and I don't know if you've taken a look at Leviticus and how it's this, okay. Um, I'm wondering if you get a long list of laws, how will you approach that in sort of describing it and asking questions about it? Are you going to go like, well, I don't understand that law, or I don't understand that law, or how are you going to deal with it?
Probably. I probably will. If I don't understand it, I'm going to ask,
Uh-huh.
like, what was the point of this? Did
Uh-huh.
people follow it? Who made it? Right? I haven't gotten there, so
Uh-huh.
I don't know. We'll see. But I do know that Leviticus, I'm pretty sure, is what a lot of people, atheists, use against
Yes.
sins. I'm pretty sure Leviticus is like you. I think I saw something where it's like you can't wear two different kinds of fabric,
Yes. Yep.
something like that.
Uh-huh.
And so we'll see how I feel in again. It's
Uh-huh.
time. It's a different time. So
Yep.
I don't know what,
Yep.
but we'll see. We'll see
Well,
how I
people will pick. They'll pick
yeah.
they pick the laws that they really like, and they'll ignore the ones they don't like. So,
Mhm.
but I know um I hope that I find Leviticus absolutely fascinating. So I hope you do too. You look at it and go, "Oh yeah, it is a big list of rules, but you really get to know the people, what's important to them, what were important to those Israelites and what weren't, what aren't."
Mhm.
So, yeah, and yeah, people use Leviticus pretty badly, but you'll also find there's fairness, a lot of fairness. That you do that and that. So it's basically the like our laws, the laws that we live with, right? Without the law, we wouldn't have a civil society, so I'm excited to see what you get. I mean, I'm excited about Exodus too because there's lots of good storytelling in there. But when you get to these passages and you go, wait a minute, there's not a lot of story here, but there's lots of content, right?
Right. Okay, I'm excited. So
Yeah.
I'm just excited for the whole
Good.
thing.
And now, is there anything you'd like to ask me? Is there anything that I can help you with?
I mean, I think because you're a pastor, right? I've
Hmm.
seen your videos, I've seen you in your church. So were you raised Christian?
Yeah, so I was raised Presbyterian, and in Southern California. So in the 1970s. So that has a context to it because in the 70s is when there was a rise of religious right, before Reagan and during Reagan and all of that. So that's sort of so I kind of in high school, I was kind of I went to youth group and I did all of the churchy things. And then by the time I went to college, I was like, oh, I don't like this anymore. And imagine a lot of people that comment and listen to you, or maybe atheists, were turned off by religion at some point in their
Mhm.
lives
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So yeah, so I was there, but I found a really peaceful place to be, and then I became a pastor later in life, and went to seminary, and I know some of the biblical languages and stuff like that, and I spend a lot of time on TikTok, as do you.
Yep.
I have 850 videos or something like that. So
Yeah.
you'll be there.
I, I feel like I'm making videos all the time, but I like to sit in it before I record. Like I like to really read it because at the
Hmm.
end of the day, this is not for TikTok. This is for myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and like people will say, "Oh, you haven't made a video. Like, are you okay?" I'm like, I'm processing what Lot just did
Uh-huh.
to his daughters. Like, I'm not over this yet. I need
Yes.
some days to like process this, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm definitely not as consistent probably as you are.
You're letting it affect you.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's cool.
Um, but the reason I asked if you had, grew up a Christian is because
Hmm.
one thing I ask and no one ever really responds to me, or if they do, they have the same answer. And I'm like, sometimes I'm reading these stories and they can get really dark. And I'm like, were you taught as a child?
Hmm.
Like, if you had access to this book, like, I'm not
Hmm.
sure that I would let my daughters, depending on what age they are,
Yeah.
read some of these, at least not with me next to them to explain it to them. So, like,
Hmm.
when I've asked this, the only answer people have ever told me is we didn't read that.
Yes, and that is very common. Even I had a professor that says that we always have the Bible we choose, because no matter where you are, you gravitate to some parts and you don't to others. That's the value in what you're doing is that you're seeing it all,
Hmm.
and you can choose how you engage with it. You're always negotiating with it. One of the things that really helped me through, sort of the dark areas of the scripture, and why I have not rejected scripture, is that I've always taken more of a literary approach, like you are. So even and I was taught, my parents taught me to think critically, and to engage critically. So that helps a lot, and I think that you find some of our what we call colleagues, I guess, on TikTok, the ones that are really good talk like that. They
Yes.
talk about critically engaging, asking tough questions, and how does that make you feel? And then you go, oh, these are, and my realization, these are people thousands of years ago that were dealing with life, hard stuff in life, and this is how they dealt with it.
Hmm.
And sometimes it's pretty dark and awful, and sometimes it's very hopeful and uplifting and wonderful. So, it's full, you get the full spectrum of life. Very messy.
It's
So,
yes. I made a video and I don't remember exactly, so don't ask me what the verses were, but I was saying that while reading this, I'm like, you don't have to believe that this is real for some
yeah.
of these verses to affect you. And
Yeah.
I love that. I think that
Yes.
that is a beautiful thing that I'm getting out of this. No
Yeah.
matter where I end up thinking in the end, I know that there's verses in here that will help me in life.
Yeah.
And I'm only through one book.
Well, and I
So,
say that for believers, I say, a healthy spirituality, a healthy approach to this is you're not a believer every day.
mhm.
There's an author named Rachel Held Evans. Maybe I don't know if you've ever heard of her, but she wrote a book called Inspired about reading scripture in this sort of way. And one of the chapters that she has, it goes, on the days I believe. So giving people space to say, well, I don't always believe, or I don't always believe the same way, or maybe it doesn't matter if I believe this or not, that kind of thing. So I think that's a healthy way to approach it, you know.
Yeah, I've never heard
So,
that before.
yeah.
Usually, at least in the comments, people are, it's like do or die
Yeah,
situation.
yeah, and for a lot
Yeah.
of evangelical people, doubting is a sin to them,
Mhm.
and but I think that I hate to say it, but I will say it. Being a little, I think it's a little immature, spiritually immature
Mhm.
to do that because real, real people doubt, real people struggle. And that's what we're reading in scripture is we read people who are struggling with their doubts and their beliefs. Well, why are we any different, right?
Right.
So,
That's yeah. No,
yeah.
it's so true. Yeah. I
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I guess to close here, I just really, I want to support you any way I can. Maybe I'll make a comment or two here or there, but I'm excited by your enthusiasm for this. I'm excited that you're also able to handle pretty rough comments or people, trying to really push their agenda, and you're taking that sort of like with grace and understanding and knowing that's where they're coming from. A lot of people are coming from this, from hurt, you know, and for them, they're processing their hurt. And
Yes.
sometimes they're doing that in your comments too,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. We're all human. That's how I take it. I had a commenter say something not so kind, and I
uh-huh.
responded to them in a really kind manner. And someone was like, I really should be taking notes from you on how to handle these things. And I was like, that's so sweet. Thank you for saying that. But because at the end of the day, we're humans.
Yeah.
All have pain. We're all going through something. So I don't
Yeah.
let like that affect me at all because I can
Yeah.
delete the app.
Yes, that's true. And you can choose to comment or not comment,
Mhm.
or, yeah, a lot of times when somebody's really difficult to me, I just ask a question. I go, do you really believe that? Or is that where that comes from? Where does that come from?
Yeah,
Sometimes and that disarms people a little bit and they back down and yeah. So, yeah, I just think that's really healthy. And so that's my hope for you, you personally, but also for your audience is just that health, whether it's spiritual health or just mental health, being able to look at this and just go, oh, I feel even the tough stuff, I can handle it. And, it's
yeah,
a good story. I
yeah.
can
No, I,
learn from it.
I love it. Thank you again for having me on here.
Oh yeah. Well, thank you very much for agreeing to do this, and I can use you, and I can use this as an example for people doing what I call long format scripture reading, just the reading the whole stories and really because I think that it's super valuable.
I
So,
agree.
all right. Well, thank you so much, and I wish you the best, and I'll be watching you on TikTok.
Yes,
Okay.
I'll talk to you there.
Okay. See you later, Elle.
Bye.
Bye.